I fucking love your work. Oh, and you can curse, obviously.
Oh, awesome. I was going to say that was a long tongue bite.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me here on Reppin. I'm Evelyn, your host. Many regular listeners of this podcast know that beyond this mic, I'm a working television producer-director. I have been so lucky to be part of an industry that has really inspired me when I was growing up. My career has given me and continues to give me many wonderful opportunities, like being able to work on amazing projects. And I've been able to meet and work alongside incredibly talented people, some of whose work I have long enjoyed. And my guest today is one of those people. She's a 3-time Emmy winner, an actress known to deliver powerful, emotional, nuanced performances. She was Dr. Carly Manning, one half of the super couple, Beau and Carly from NBC's Days of Our Lives, which I absolutely loved. That's also where she met her now husband of over 20 years, actor Michael Sabatino, who played the villainous Lawrence Alamain. Then in 2002, she went to CBS's Guiding Light, where she won an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress as Olivia Spencer. The character was not only a fan favorite, but also groundbreaking, being one of daytime's first lesbian characters, and with a major same-sex love story between Olivia and Otalia Rivera, also lovingly known as Otalia. The storyline garnered critical praise for being well-crafted, superbly performed, and impactful because it addressed issues like homophobia. My guest continued to trailblaze when she brought daytime television onto the web. And in 2011, she won an Emmy for Outstanding Special Class Short Format for her web series Venice, in which she created, wrote, and produced. And in 2014, she won her 3rd Emmy for Outstanding New Approaches drama series for Venice. She's worked and fought hard for her game-changing roles and projects. She's going to share how she's been able to create all of those new pathways and how she navigated the naysayers. I'm super psyched because I've got Crystal Chappell. Crystal Chappell, thank you so much for being here. How are you? You look wonderful. I know you're like doing a million things, so thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. And I thank you for having me. It's great to finally talk. We've been going back and forth for so long, so I'm glad we could make this work.
I love your decor of the Emmys. You make me feel like I've done nothing with my career.
No. They have to go somewhere.
Yes.
They were in storage for a long time. They're out. They're free.
I'm going to buy you a box of Swiffers because you need to make sure that they're all clean. I know that you've been crazy busy with Venice. Can you give us an update of where you are, what we can expect from the series? You guys are going into season 7. That's insane.
Right.
So yeah, what can we expect and what has it been like for you now that you've gone 7 seasons?
I'm happy to be back and I get to see my cast mates in person again. It was via FaceTime and all that good stuff. Basically, the gang's getting back together and it's about love. It's about pursuit of happiness, trying to find love in this life and having it be more maybe purposeful and keeping grounded. And yet there are capers and there's fun. And I'm just really excited. I love this cast so much. They're my friends. And so I'm so excited to be on set with them again. It's a fun season.
You know, we talked a little bit offline and I need to kind of go back to this because I do think it's well worth noting. Now, I am in television. I've worked in television for 27 years. But at the start of this, when you started Venice, it was back in 2009, if I'm correct.
Uh-huh.
And you also were doing Days at the same time. So I say this with deepest respect and affection. That is batshit crazy because that's an amazing amount of work between shootings. Because I know what a production day is like. Just production alone, doing one thing. You don't leave set. I barely have time to pee. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. You tell me.
No.
And you did a new series. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like? Because you were one of the early pioneers of web series and daytime certainly was far behind you at that point. So what was that like to, I'm not even being facetious right now, like doing a show, just shooting, nothing else is all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not kidding about the peeing thing. Then you started a new show, something that hadn't been done before, which is bringing something like this, a daytime show, to the web. Like, Crystal, what was that like? And what were some of the major challenges that you were facing at that particular time?
Boy, yeah, I mean, it is crazy. The thing about being in production, and when I went back to days, was that I didn't have to do everything. So I could just come on and act and leave. And there's something you really grow to appreciate that. I always did. I always loved walking on a set as an actor and feeling just so lucky to be there. But but I didn't know. In fact, going into production on my days off, and not just the production, but we were building a website. We were learning about clouds. I was on the phone with Limelight that streams Hulu, and you're just talking to people and getting tech talk and then budgeting and everything and crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
So it was just a huge, big ball of what? So the acting part of it was like a day off. I could go into the studio and I was like, oh, this is great. I don't have to do anything except act. But it was full. And at the time, my kids were, 9 and 6. So it was just a lot of stuff. But I think if anything suffered during that period, it was my time with my family. And it was a lesson that I learned. It had to happen. It was the way forward. But that sacrifice paid off. But I remember my eldest son telling me how much he hated Venice because I was gone all the time. But it just had to happen. And yes, but being on set, not knowing what you're doing and not being able to pee. And yeah, it was challenging. But I will say this, it was such a new kind of idea at the time that I had so many people offering to help. So almost like, I sort of raised my hand and people went, yeah, what do you need? So I was very fortunate with that. It got more and more challenging, certainly as the field got more populated with shows and stuff like that. But initially, it was just this big, gigantic, never sleep, never pee. But you're doing it with people you like, and you're having a good time, and you're learning stuff that you didn't know about.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I'd even like production and producing, and I do. And what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, I had to learn to be a better leader. I don't think I was particularly into not a leadership position, but being a boss and having to oversee everything. I had enough going on. Like, whoa.
Okay.
And then I learned how to be, I think, a better communicator and a better boss and understand other people's needs and other people's creative needs.
Yeah.
So in the collaborative part of it all, because you're dealing with that on set as an actor, you have to working with a prop person, you're working with whoever designed the set, script, but it's different when you're the person who is in charge of the budget and you're having to say no.
Yeah.
And you're basically saying, and I had to learn how to go, okay, pick your scene today or pick 2 scenes and put half your eggs there and half your eggs there because this is how much time you have to make it work, and I had to get very specific with people.
Yeah.
You have 20 minutes to light this thing the way you want to light it. And then we're going. So it just was this wonderful evolution that I don't think I could have gotten that experience anywhere. And at the end of the day, I felt every person that came on set or post or whatever, they just taught me something amazing.
I think production is a huge beast, and it's a beast that constantly changes, right? And you're constantly problem solving, and there's everything coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. This was a time where it hadn't been done yet, right? So you were new, you were raising your hand to learn, which I love learning. And it seems like you do as well, because you can't do what you've done without really liking to learn, frankly. But here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, please always, I don't want to ever assume anything, Crystal, is as many people that were raising their hands, you also faced a certain amount of opposition. Because I remember in one interview that I heard you talk about is learning all the rules. You're doing production, there's a million rules of production and unions, which are very strict. And there's penalties if you don't do it correctly.
Right.
So I want to break this down for just a second. So you're starting a web series. Don't know, I think you were quoted to say you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You had to learn all the technical stuff, which in itself is a beast, because a new quote unquote tool, a camera, it's already out of date. Before you even swipe the credit card, it's like out of date. It's right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this ever changing technology that you have to constantly update yourself. And you're acting on days. The dialogue and the pace that you guys have to shoot is still incredible. And you're trying to carve something out of nothing. And then you've got, I would imagine, and you can share some of your experiences, the conversations and sort of the challenges that you had to face, because learning all of that in itself would be enough for me to try to get you a plane ticket to Cancun. But then you had all of the resistance from people who I would assume would look at you and be like, what the hell are you doing? Can you share some of those challenges that you faced when you first started this?
I think as an actress here, people want you to stay in your lane, right? They want you to stay in your lane and do what you do. And at the time, again, this was 2009, nobody really cared that much about web series. I was flying below the radar.
Oh.
And I remember thinking this is a good thing for a number of reasons. I remember thinking this is a really good thing. So I would talk to actor friends and crew friends and stuff like that. And I learned a very valuable lesson once we got Venice off the ground, the first season. And yes, it's all of those things. I have been on the phone with every different department in the Writers Guild. And everyone's coming out, they're threatening me. I'm like, oh my God. But I remember sending a thank you note, and the executive producer, Carrie Tomling, called me in and said, did you say something to Mr. Corday about this? And I went, yeah, I said, thanks. He goes, don't do that again. I was like, okay.
Why?
Because it opened up this awareness that somebody's doing something with your cast. And technically, you're not supposed to, I think, go off and do other permission. But this was a web series. So people were like, whatever. And eventually we dropped below the radar again. I think, honestly, winning Emmys was when we started to get there's some feet to this, right? And then it became a little like, but to be fair to Ken, he never ever once said, don't use my cats. And then people didn't really believe in him. And that was the other thing. And they didn't really believe in it. They didn't really find any value in it. They thought it was a fun hobby. So I thought it's better to just let things be the way they are. I had more belief in it than they did, where it could go. But I thought it was better just to let the sleeping dogs lie and rouse them. And
okay, we all go through periods of trying new things or having a level of uncertainty sometimes when we're doing or reaching new chapters in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So here you are. Nobody was thinking a whole lot about web series or streaming services, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're entering this phase where again, I'm not even kidding, like the amount of information that was coming at you that you had to learn is insane. And I can't imagine some of the categories or boxes that you were seen as, because entertainment or not, we're all, society in general, and tell me if you agree, wants everyone to stay in their lane, whatever that lane is.
Right.
So when you're getting these questions from quote unquote industry experts that didn't think a whole lot of this and it had never been done before, and you're forging this new path, you must have had like uncertainty, self-doubt, because everyone is telling you this is not going to work. And you're investing so much. So can you talk about a moment where you might have experienced within yourself that uncertainty, wrestling with it? What was that like? And how did you manage it so you could get to where you are? Like, dude, you won a ton of Emmys. Look at what's like behind you.
Look, there's always a rebirth after a tragedy. And for me, the tragedy was having spent 10 years on Guiding Light, and then it was gone. I found a tremendous sense of community with that group. And I saw what was happening to a genre. I mean, I've been watching soap since I was a little girl, and watching, my grandmother who's passed away long ago. And I just knew the value of that. And I knew that I didn't, and this is not for everyone, I didn't want to be a 50-year-old signing in for an audition. I want to figure out what else there is for me that would make me happy. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be in the limelight. In fact, it's very uncomfortable for me. But coming out of Guiding Light, I saw the value of the story, and that was more hitting me more profoundly than anything I've ever acted. It was people's reaction to a story. And then also, whether it's good reaction or bad reaction, there was a ton of support for it. But at the same time, there were people saying, we're not going to talk about it, move on. It was an uncomfortable subject matter, the lesbian community, maybe the queer community altogether. And it was just like, okay, I don't understand that. And I can honestly say, I'm somebody ever since I was a little girl, and I see it in my children. Things are taught. You teach your kids. But some things I think you're just born with, and you are born with some things. One of the things I was born with was you see people's differences, right? You can see, you have eyes. You can see people looking differently, praying differently, whatever it may be. But I was never one of those people who cared. I just wanted to belong. I just wanted to be a part of something. The idea that we're all one big family and humanity was so much bigger, and was, even as a little girl, was so much bigger to me than what somebody looked like or who they loved.
Right.
When I got this pushback, it was very much, I really didn't get it. I knew there were biases out there, but I was like, and we can't even talk about it.
Right.
I had gay people who worked, in the marketing department going, we can't say anything. I know it's hard, but we're not allowed to say anything. When the show was gone, I felt like, okay, this is an obligation. I felt like it was something I had to do. So I didn't really care at that point what people had to say about, they didn't like it, if they didn't believe in it. I wasn't trying to sell it to anyone. I still own the show.
Right.
I don't want people to take something that I love and that I created and bastardize it because of their biases or their fears. It was just easy for me. I'm a bit of a bitch, honestly. I don't care. I am. Not that you can't hurt my feelings. I'm a vulnerable person. But when somebody comes such a negative way, I'm like, fuck off. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm not even kidding. I remember Peter Reckell once said to me, because I was explaining to him, like, he's an actor on Days, I'm going to do this and it's going to work. And he's like, well, how are you so sure? I said, I don't know. I just am. Watch me. And then it was like, okay. And then we go do it. Yeah, you're going to have problems. Yes, there's self-doubt. I so many times. But it's just, what do? You're in the middle of something. You got to finish it. And it paid off. I mean, that was the thing. The more I kept hearing from fans, and you got hit with criticism as well, but
yeah,
there was a lot of positive reaction. It served the purpose that I created it to serve.
You brought up something that as a little girl, this was always instilled in you, that you just saw everyone based on like people. We're all humans, right? Now, I did read your book. You moved around a lot. So you were always the outsider.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that experience during your formative years cemented the understanding of the biases that, like, maybe someone like me who's Asian American is facing? Because I'm always seen as the outsider. Do you think those moments where you were the outsider, where you didn't fit in, where you wanted to belong, where you understood what it felt like, do you feel like those lessons carried into the person you are today?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're always the new person. You don't know what you're going to be up against. It's scary. It's lonely. And I could spot, after a while, you can start to spot the outsiders like you, and you find your tribe. And yeah, it definitely shaped my path. And I still am more of an introvert than an extrovert. I'm still that person. And maybe that's why it's cool to, and I'm okay with putting myself out there to say what needs to be said, because I can't explain it enough. As I've gotten older, I've just stopped giving a shit about what people have to say about me. I don't care. I'll be fine. You know what? Don't be the asshole who goes and attacks other people for no good reason. I can't take it. But yeah, I was never like bullied on the playground, but I was certainly bullied in the classroom. I remember staring at a girl that I thought she had beautiful eyes. And I was just this nerdy. This is like typing class. This is me. I had to take typing.
I took it.
You still have to take typing?
I took typing.
Did you? Okay.
It's the only one I used.
It's a good tool. And there was two girls sitting behind me, and they were just ragging on me and giving me shit and saying nasty things. And it was day after day. And I finally just turned around. I think I was in the 7th grade. And I said, you want to know why I'm staring at you? Because I think you're really pretty and you have beautiful eyes. Sorry about that. And then I turned around, and they later came up and apologized to me. But it was just one of those things like, what the fuck? I think you have to say something. You have to speak out. And that was, again, a new school for me. So I'm sure that was very much a part of what shaped me.
How did you learn to do that, though? Because there comes a moment where there's an inflection point, right? From my experience, you can either be crushed by it, or you can learn to say something. And I'll be very honest with you. I don't know that I learned to do that until like way later. I used to hide under the tables till I was 8, Crystal. I saw kneecaps for 8 years because I didn't come out to socialize with anybody. And now, like, I'm in television. But how did you learn to find your voice?
I don't think there was any one moment. I think there were little bursts of emergence and formation. I think it just happens over time. And you get into show business, so you're expected to look a certain way, you're expected to behave a certain way. And I did that for a long time. I did exactly what they asked me to do because that's what I thought I had to do to keep my job. But I still was able to stand up for myself, whether it's to an acting partner or a producer or somebody, if they're crossing the line. I've been in lots of positions where my career could have furthered, but I said no and walked away. I don't know if it's grace. I don't know if it's spirit. I don't know if it's Irish in me. I don't know, but I've just been able to do it in my lifetime to find little bursts of me. And hopefully as I've gotten older, there's more of me there that's available.
I appreciate that because I think a lot of times in a society that we're living in today, especially everything is so instantaneous that we're just kind of going. We're not really reflecting.
Right.
So what I wanted to go to where you were talking about understanding what it's like to be an outsider. Now, when you first started your acting career, I'm sure that you did not think of yourself as like an activist. Okay. But you must realize at this point to some degree that you are an activist, right?
Very much.
Tell me if I'm wrong here, but from the time that you were little and you realized you were an outsider to your acting career, knowing that people had certain expectations, and now you are at the helm of this entire production. You direct, you write, you executive produced. Again, you carved something out of stone, essentially. I'm sure when you were on Guiding Light, you understood the value of a great story. It was a meaty story between you and Jessica Lucia. And daytime at that particular point wasn't really known for like pushing the boundaries so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you got this meaty story that I understand that you guys were both excited to jump into. And then the show got canceled, which sucks. But now you'd have it on Venice. You had said in your book, in other interviews, that you realized the importance of storytelling and the stories you were telling, that you were really being a voice for the voiceless in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Was there one particular moment you realized what your art and your talent was transcending to something much bigger than entertainment?
Sure. I think for me, it was being in that story. And I think at that time, and we were winding down, we knew we were going off the air. I think at the time, there used to be snail mail, that fan letters and things that we used to get. I remember those.
Yeah.
And bills still come that way.
Yes.
But we started to get emails, packets of emails printed, and I would read them. And it was so personal. There was stuff that was so personal in both the snail mail and the emails that were so personal that people have written me letters in the past and they've had hardships, illnesses and family losses and things like that. This was so specific to the LGBTQ community and it was heinous. It was the stuff that I read was horrible. And
yeah,
it's a part of our history, unfortunately, in this country, but it hit me in a way that made me want to weep. And it does, just thinking about it, because nobody should live that way.
Yeah. I agree.
It was heinous, being chased and your life threatened and for being who you are. And that's, it just incited so much anger in me. It was like some fucking Marvel movie. And it just was enraging. And it just felt like something that had to happen. So to me, I look at, I'm not necessarily a religious person, but I am very spiritual. And I really believe, because I've had this throughout my life where I'd think, okay, I need to understand this better. And then the next day somebody calls me and goes, here's something I want to tell you. I'm going, oh, that's great. I was just thinking. And I've had those sort of serendipitous things happen to me. And I just remember thinking, this was such a calling. It was so much more than me always wanting to have produced.
Oh, right.
Being in charge of my own stuff. It was so much bigger than. Then all of a sudden, is how are we going to do this? And fortunately, I was working at the time, so I could contribute, but the fans showed up. And I was just like, okay, this is meant to happen. So it was just this thing that just kept moving. And it was a wave that we caught that, and everyone was pushing it. The fans were behind it. And I had actor friends come up and say, what can I do? And then crew people saying, what can I do? And it just was beautiful sense of coming together of something,
right?
You're finding more purpose in our art. And 13 years later, we're still here. And I dig in every day. I come into this office, I go, now more than ever, we have to tell these stories.
Yeah, again, congratulations, first of all, not only in starting the series, but it does have legs. And going to what I was saying and what you were saying is we started this business because we loved we're so lucky to do what we do. But there comes a time when you are able to sink your teeth into a project that becomes so much more. And that's when you realize the power of your storytelling. And in my opinion, and I will never experience the levels of success that you have, but
I don't know about that.
We can debate about it over cocktails. Winner picks up the bill. But here's the thing. I feel like we have an opportunity to bring a window to allow people to see things that they may not necessarily be exposed to. And the thing that I love about Venice is, dude, it's just normal people that some are gay and some are not, just like living the trials and tribulations of life and being able to see one another, not based on our gender or our race or the fact that you're an Emmy-winning actress and that's all you are, or me being a New Yorker or whatever it is that we're immediately labeled. I think that's a really great opportunity because you're exposing people to things that they may not see. So when you're writing this and you're looking back from the time that you had to deal with all the pushes and shoves and the condescension that you had to face because you were starting something out of nothing, and now you're not only 13 years in, but you're creating change for people who need it. Can you talk about what that experience is like for you as you reflect?
I've said before that I know what it feels like to be marginalized. And the person that I hold myself at this point in my life most accountable for that is me. But with communities that are in a position like the AAPI and the Black community, the LGBTQ community, not that they don't account for themselves or stand up for themselves, but I'm very aware of my privilege. And we need to be able to help each other on that level, because what I walk away with is this: if we don't come together, if white people don't get their shit together and understand that if one person goes down, we all go down.
Right.
That's the way that's going to work. There's no other solution to this. Nothing else is going to happen, but we're all going down together. That's what I walk away with. So I fight for everyone who wants to fight. You want to stand up, come together, push forward, try to understand each other. Great. We don't have to like each other. I think that's the thing. Everyone thinks you have to like everybody. You don't have to you don't, but you have to be respectful.
Well, I like you.
I like you too. I don't know you that well, but you seem very nice. But my point is that there are assholes everywhere. You have to learn to respect each other's differences and not be so fear-based and so afraid of people. Otherwise, we're just all going to slide down that big dark hole together.
Here's the thing that I love what you said. You understand your position, you understand your privilege, and we need more allies like you. But for people who will look at you and say, Crystal, you're Crystal Chappell, 3-time Emmy winner, and they're in like Kentucky somewhere. What would you encourage people who do not understand how they can leverage their person and their values to be the ally so we don't slide down that rabbit hole? They're still fear-based.
Sure. We all have fear in us, right? Don't we all have our own fears. It's what you allow to drive you. I think you have to be accountable for yourself. I think you need to find a way to maybe listen a little harder. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. I think everyone thinks, I have to go join a group or I have to volunteer, whatever. All you have to do is just be kind to everyone throughout a day, just one day. I have bad days too. But just pick a day and just go and do something kind for someone and get past a little bit of your fear. I used to take my kids when they were little. After Thanksgiving, we'd make turkey sandwiches and we'd go and hand them out to the homeless. Not at a soup kitchen or anything like that. We would just drive around. And they were little, so Michael would go up with them. I would go up with them.
Yeah.
But it was about talking to people who were needing. And it was scary as a mom. But you have to try to cross a bridge, I think. And I think that's what everyone needs to do. Just find something that scares you and give it a try. Isn't that how we grow? We're all afraid of something. All of us. I still turn out the lights at night. I might look under my bed. you know,
Dude, Michael should help you with some of that. I'm just saying.
sound asleep and snoring. I'm like on my own.
You're like, yo, dude. Here's the other thing that I wanted to talk about. Now that you're able to almost have a 360 point of view between producing, writing, doing budgets, which again, I commend you because I can't crunch numbers for shit. I use an app to figure out the lunch bill.
Yeah.
I'm being completely transparent with you.
I think that's smarter. I'm still pen to paper going, I got to spread it all out so I can see it.
You're now at the helm of all of this and you have a good understanding of what it takes to bring an entire show together, which is a Herculean task for anyone who hasn't done it. Just producing is a full-time job. And I hate to say this, but we as women are still fighting equal pay, trying to get more recognition, more opportunities. Michelle Yeoh just won an award after 95 years.
Oh, I know.
And you are also opening doors as a woman, being at the helm of all of these things. What were some of the lessons that you've learned that you've taken and have implemented into your productions now? What were some of the hardships that you may have faced back in the day that you said, I'm going to change this for others?
I understand that. And it is harder to get things done as a woman. It just is.
Yeah.
And it sucks. But I have actively sought out other women to work with. Not that I've worked with some wonderful men as well, but I'm very aware of the different perspectives and just the amount of energy and desire to work and to work hard and to work as hard as me. And I like that's a fun collaboration. I don't know. Maybe things have gotten better. I really don't know. I just work independently. I'm working with a couple of women now, a few women, actually. It's a group of women who writing that are amazing and much younger than me. So I'm getting such an education and they sought me out. So again, that was just one of these little gifts that came along and I'm just going for the ride. One of those ladies who's now a very successful producer said to me, she had an opportunity years ago. She's a woman of color. And she said, when somebody opens a door for you, you go running through it. You don't walk through it, you go running through it. And I said, okay. She later said to me, you want to work together? And I said, the door is open and here's me running through it. And I think this kind of world of offering women this opportunity, people offering me opportunity. And I think that's just what we have to do. And I'm not biased against men. Like I said, I still work with some amazing men.
Yeah.
But I think that women need to actively help other women.
Amen.
Yeah, I just think we do. And it's amazing what we've done. So yes, I want to live up to my gender. Let's go. Let's make this happen. Let's do lots of shit. Do good stuff.
Girlfriend, you're totally preaching to the choir because I think there was such a sense of competition. And unfortunately, that still does exist.
It does.
The sense of competition amongst women. When you reflect back to when you, like, just how much you've gone through, can you tell me one time where you're taking stock in the road traveled, so to speak? And what was one moment where you realized like things are changing and you were a part of that change?
What the first thing that pops into my mind is when we won our first Emmy. And it happened in my community. It was in the daytime community. And so I knew everyone that was there and had worked for most everyone that was there. And then had their support. Once we won, there was a tremendous amount of support from them. And they were mostly men running the business, the community, the daytime community. So it was nice. And then seeing other people get excited and creating and other female producers creating. And that to me was just a pivotal point. And I loved it. I'm that person who goes, okay, look, you got a trophy. This is your one day to really enjoy it. And then you're going to go back to work. That's pretty much my rule is go ahead, party, celebrate, do your thing, and then put it up on the shelf and get back to work. But I think that was it. It was an affirmation. It was lovely. And it was more lovely to have people that I worked for 25 years say such lovely things and be so supportive. And they still are, quite frankly.
I look at this and I go, again, I've been in television for 27 years, but you kicked ass on days, like seriously kicked ass on days. And then you started a company, you started a web series So daytime television, you played a gay woman on daytime at a time where it really wasn't being done.
No.
And it was being done well. Then the show went off the air, unfortunately. And it wasn't just about having a meaty storyline anymore. It was like, holy shit, this is a really great story, but it was also an important story because it was making an impact on people's real lives, Crystal.
Right.
And then you were like, oh, okay, now I'm going to go start a web series for daytime, a time when no one else is doing it. So there's another game changer there. And now on top of that, you're continuing these great stories by portraying just interesting characters. Again, you're being an advocate for people who do not have the privilege or have to pay a higher price to speak for themselves or to be authentic. Just the right to be themselves. That's all anyone really wants. And to be seen and valued.
Yeah.
Does that ever hit you?
Yeah, I'm very proud. Look, I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. I worked hard.
Yeah.
And I've always worked hard. Yeah, look, I made mistakes along the way, but I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And even with that, saying something like that, it's not something that I could actually say years ago because I was constantly being told that I was being arrogant if I said those things. And it's such a crock of shit. And especially women in particular, because men don't get that. Men don't get, oh, look, who do they think they are? It's no, fuck off. And I was at a conference and this was, I don't know, 9 years after I started Venice, and we had our booth and it was an LGBTQ conference. And I had a woman come up to me and basically say to me, we just got off a panel, a bunch of us, and we've decided, and these are her words, we've decided that the reason you're successful is because of Otalia. I said 100%. But it's been 9 years. And that's my booth. I said it took a lot of work to get from there to here.
Yeah.
And that person came up to me later and said, do you know the difference between arrogance and confidence? I said, I do. Do you? And it was just this kind of weird. I thought, boy, you're not going to shake me because I've earned it. And every woman, every little girl should know that it's okay. It's okay to toot your horn. It's okay to feel good about things that you've accomplished. It's okay to say, I feel good about that. So I'm very aware and very proud of what I've accomplished because it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard, scary. It felt very isolating at the time. You're always going, boy, that sucked. And you're constantly, I'm an artist. And so you're always thinking, and what's next? And yeah, but I think you have to get to the point. And I'm the same way when things suck. You just kind of go, okay. But don't let anyone, try to drag you down, and especially other women. Don't do that. And men don't even do that. They might do the pat on the head every now and again. Oh, like, that's nice. But then they start to see what you're doing. And then all of a sudden they're going, so what are you doing with that product? But women in particular can be hard. And I'm just, boy, ladies, just stop.
Yeah. What do we need to do to fast track some of that change, do you think?
I don't know. I think social media is good and it's bad all at the same time. It's if we can inspire young women, mothers to just let their daughters be confident, let them be okay with saying, I did this. Fathers too, you got to support your daughters. Very important that, again, this is about humanity and community, and one person goes down, we're all going down. So
yeah,
I think that we need to just get women feeling okay with what they've done. Mothers, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time while I was trying to get the company and the show up and running. And I was the hardest frickin' job I've ever had,
Yeah.
I think we have to rely on humanity. We have to keep plugging away and helping each other to acknowledge, say it's okay. I remember mothers who don't work are looked down upon the mothers who do work. It's like, what the fuck is that about? It's all hard. It's all hard, especially with children.
Yeah.
What are you doing? But
Yeah.
I just think as a community, as a sisterhood, we have to recognize that and do something kind for another lady.
I agree. You brought up something that I really wanted to hit upon really quickly. This is my opinion. You can tell me if you agree with this or not, Crystal, is men can not know what they're doing, like 50% sure. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to go do it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And women are like, oh my God, I have to be 2000% prepared to even approach the idea that you could potentially do it. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Or why can't we, on top of that, what you just said was so key. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I suck at that. Like saying, oh, this was good. I'm horrendous with it. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, and it could be, or it's a woman. I have no idea. So my first question is, do you agree with the statement that what is it about like women needing to be over prepared before we even feel comfortable to go into the room, where guys are like maybe 10% sure and they still go for it and they get the opportunities?
Because they will have more opportunity. Yes, I do agree with it, because they can go in feeling like, I've got a penis, I'm probably going to get the job, as opposed to a woman who does have to work that much harder.
Right.
And that's not every man that feels that way or thinks that way. I'm just saying that
there's generalization, obviously.
There's some truth to that. And maybe they don't have to be as prepared. Or look, people get jobs based off who wins a golf game. I at times go, maybe I need to learn how to play golf. I really don't want to play golf, I'll be honest. But I'm like, maybe I should learn. Yeah, I do believe that. And I don't mind working harder. I think it's just ingrained. And I think women are just capable of doing we're magical creatures. We can raise children, and then we can go out and listen to a Beyonce song. She's formation. I can go out there and do this and have babies and go back to business. There's a truth to that. It's like women are incredible.
Right.
And I'll be really honest. I'm married to a guy. I've raised 2 men, and they're amazing. But I often go, I kind of sometimes feel sorry. It's like, because I can do 10 different things and they're still in that one or that 2. And I'm going, especially my husband. My husband is so myopic that he's like, it's a one task of like, and there's virtue to that. But I'm like, okay, but we got to get this, we got to move.
Yeah.
And so there are parts of me that I'm like, poor thing. Okay.
That's hilarious.
Women are just a little better at multitasking and getting shit done, but we do have to work harder. And that isn't fair.
Just based on the conversation, it feels like you are comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are. You're comfortable with understanding your position, your privilege, but also understanding some of the bias that you may face and some of the challenges. But it seems like from the time that you were a little, understanding what it's like to be an outsider and feeling it and not really finding your voice at that particular time, because it's hard being the new kid constantly, to now where you are self-realized. What helped you find your voice? From what I understand, when you were younger and you were moving from one place to another, and you've gone through a lot of hardships when you were a kid, all the way to all of the competition and the difficulties of just fucking surviving the entertainment industry, to 3 Emmys behind you. What helped you find your voice, and how do you hold on to it?
You know what they say, when you find something that feels so right in your soul, you never let it go. It's like my husband he's a hiker, and I've never seen him more himself than when he's up in the mountains. And I'm just like, oh, my feet hurt. And I love the mountains, don't get me wrong, but we're out on a hike. I'm like, can I sit down? Where's my Snickers? Where's my Snickers? And he gets lost in it. My point is just, he'll never let it go, and he shouldn't. And I would never let him if I have any control over it, because there's just things in your life that you know, and it doesn't have to be a place, but just a moment where you know it feels so good, you can never let it go. And I talked about these little bursts of self that show themselves along the way. But once you hit a point of, this is important.
Yeah.
In that I can say something. If I can say something, I will say something. And I get shit, whatever. You have to hang on to your truth. You have to first know what your truth is, and you have to figure it out, and you have to be honest with yourself. But that thing that feels so good that you just can't let go of, that part of yourself, you never let anybody touch. It would never change for anybody else, no matter what. You hang on to it, and then you build on it. And then once you can start to hang on to those parts of yourself, like you're saying, I can go this far with what I can say. Look, I don't go stand in front of a crowd and go, I'm all badass and blah, blah. Like, no, I have modesty. But it's just like, you have to be able to say it to yourself in private, right? Or you have to be able to I always say everyone should have a happy dance. You should always have a happy dance. So whenever something good happens, you just, do it for yourself, nobody else, right?
Right.
I guess that's it. I've just found the older I've gotten, the more, and there is some truth to watching your life go. And I think you're able to look back a little more and go, God, that was cool and kind of amazing. And have that rear view mirror, but also take all of that good stuff and go, okay, now I want to go over here. And I don't know. I just think you need to find that little burst, those little moments like that and hang on to them for everything. Don't let them ever go. And then just keep building it out. That's what I've done.
That's admirable. I don't think it's easy, especially in the business that we're in, especially in your position. It's hard behind the camera. In front of the camera, I would imagine that pressure is exponentially greater and people will try to shake you. And I'm speaking, again, personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else other than myself. The doubters and the self-doubt can be overpowering at times.
No.
The fact that you have been able to go from the time when you were a kid and you faced lots of really terrible experiences and also not having a voice, not fitting in, never forgetting it, but also then understanding your position and privilege now. And in spite of people trying to undermine you, undercut you, you're being talked at or talked down to. And you're like, I'm going to do this. I believe this. And I don't think this is exclusive to entertainment.
Right.
So I salute you for that. And just, is it still hard for you to hold on to that?
Oh, of course. I think we're human beings. I think it's a daily thing. I remember one of my kids was in the 6th grade and he had a really cool teacher named Mr. G. We called him Mr. G. It was a parent teacher conference. And he was talking about my kid and how he wasn't doing well here and he wasn't doing well there. And I knew he was bright. And I just looked at the guy and I said, I can do better. And he said, no, it's not you. I said, no, it is me. I can do better. And it wasn't meant to be anything more than, for me, a wake-up call. And so I was grateful. I said, thank you for telling me this. We just need to change some patterns. We need to change some behavior. I need to change some behavior and patterns of behavior, right? That's it. That's all you can do. So it's every single day. I'm always going, what can I do something a little better here? And then the other side of that, when I have a good day, I'm like, I fucking kicked ass.
Right.
It's a day-to-day thing. And we all have it. And I'm sure even people who are far more successful are struggling. It just applies to anybody, right? We have our good days and our bad days.
Yeah, it just depends on how you manage it. And I think some people manage it better than others. Some people's choices are better than others.
I always see people who are so full of anger and so full of hate. I mean, that's so detrimental. It's just such a sort of a crashing experience when I see it, that they just don't like themselves. And they're so lonely and trying to find purpose. And I've been in that void of not knowing when my kids grew up and they didn't need me anymore. And I looked at my husband and I said, are you okay with this? I'm not okay with this. I need to, I don't know, get a parakeet. I need to do something, but it's a thing. And you have to figure out, okay, what can I do with this energy? What can I do with this time? So you don't start to implode. You have to find other places that energy.
One of the reasons why I started this also is because I don't think anyone's listening to learn. I think everyone's listening to respond. I think everyone's so quick to point, it's you, it's not me, that we're losing perspective. And it feels like to me that we're backsliding. Are you feeling the same? It's hard to not be scared.
It's amplified or magnified by social media. Like I said, it can be a good thing or not so good thing. And people sometimes expect their phones to be their best friend. That's not real. You can certainly develop relationships, but you can't really sustain them with a phone.
Yeah.
Unless it vibrates. And that's a whole other...
that's a whole nother podcast, Crystal.
Yeah, I went there. But yeah, I do feel it. I do see it. But I am very hopeful because of what I've seen in states across our country and kind gestures around the world. And that's something that social media has helped to amplify as well. I have a lot of hope.
Crystal, I need you to sign us off. Will you let me know who you are and what you represent?
I'm Crystal Chappell, and I represent every other human being with voice and self-awareness and a heart and faith.
Thank you to Crystal Chappell for making the time to guest, for sharing her stories, and for giving me this full circle moment. Thanks also to her team for helping me bring this episode to fruition. I had a blast. Be sure to go watch Venice, support the series and Crystal. I'll have all of our links in the episode description. And head over to my YouTube page where I get to know Crystal in seconds. It's also where we had some laughs. If you like this episode and you want to support the series, please share, subscribe, download, and leave a review. Coming up next is Allison Kluger. She's an award-winning media expert and is one of the powerhouse people behind the success of Alex Rodriguez and Tyra Banks. Oh, and she's also one of my best friends.
I think a lot of it is feeling misunderstood. For me, the worst thing is being attacked is feeling misunderstood, like my intent is called into question. I know for me, whether I'm doing a good job or not, my intent is always pure.
Hey everyone, this is Allison Kluger, and my episode of Reppin is coming up next.
Don't forget, I'd love to hear from you, so you can talk with me on Twitter at Reppin Podcast or on the gram at Reppin_podcast. Love and thanks to my amazing team. Reppin is a Suburban Outlaw Productions. Until next time, stand up and represent.